Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to connect and use an ultrasonic sensor with the quantum system. So let's get started. So this is an HC-SR04 ultrasonic sensor. And the way this component works is it emits sound waves out of here at really high frequencies, and then it waits for those sound waves to be reflected back off an object. And then it can calculate the distance of an object by the time it takes for those waves to be emitted and then returned. So on this sensor, there are 4 pins you have to connect to the builder base. There's the VCC, the trig pin, the echo pin, and then the ground pin. And that's pretty much it for this component. So let's go ahead and take this and connect it to our builder base. So the first thing you want to do is bring in your builder base. And then we're also going to need 4 male to female jumper wires here. I'm going to take one here, which is going to be our VCC wire. I'm going to choose red. And then this one, we're going to connect to the VCC pin on the sensor. And then we're going to connect the other end to 5 volts on the builder base. Next, I'm going to take an orange wire here and connect that to the trig pin on the sensor. I'm going to take the other end and I'm going to connect it to a GP terminal on the builder base. Since the way it's lined up, the best way to do it is connect it to GP5. And then I'm just going to connect it there. You can connect it to any other GP terminal. Just make sure you specify those when you create the firmware. But I'm going to use GP5 for the trig. Next, I'm going to take this purple wire and I'm going to connect that to the echo pin on the sensor. And then I'm going to connect that one to GP6. Just like that. And then lastly, I'm going to take this black wire and I'm going to connect it to the ground pin on the sensor. And then I'm going to connect that to a ground terminal on the builder base. So it'll look something just like this. Now that our circuit is built, let's go ahead and power on our builder base and then do the rest of the setup on our Q server. So before we get started, I want to show you guys the hardware reference for this ultrasonic sensor. I'll have the link in the video description below for you to check out. But this will give you more information about the sensor, how to connect it to our system, and to do the rest of the setup and configurations with it that we might not go over in the rest of this video. So be sure to check that out as well later on. But for now, let's go to our Q server, and then we're going to pair that builder base to be connected to the ultrasonic sensor. So go over to the Clients tab, select that, and then go to the Unpaired tab, and go to Actions, and then pair that builder base. Once your client is paired, go ahead and click the Setup button, and then give it a name. I'm just going to name this Ultrasonic, and then give it a location. All right, there we go. Now the next thing we need to do is create the firmware file. So go over to the Firmware Builder tab, click Create New, and then I'll just name this guy Ultrasonic again. Click Create. Now we're going to add that ultrasonic sensor hardware to the firmware file. So go ahead and click Add Hardware, and then search for the distance ultrasonic file here, and then give it a name. I'll just name it Ultrasonic, and then we're going to add the hardware. Now let's do configuration. So go ahead and click that drop-down menu. For the driver, select HC-SR04. And for the echo pin, put in GP6, which we connected to the builder base. And then for the trigger pin, go ahead and select GP5. For the resolution, we're going to leave it at 5, but you can hover over the question mark if you want to be able to change that between a value of 1 and 30, and also tell you what it is exactly. So you can check that out. But anyways, we're going to keep at 5. And once this configuration is done, go ahead and click Save. Now we're going to go to the Actions and then upload that to our ultrasonic builder base. So there we go. Now while that's uploading, I'm just going to cancel out of that menu. We're going to create our app. So for this app, just go to the Apps tab, click Create New, and then give it a name. I'll just name it Ultrasonic, and then click Create. Now the first thing I want to do is add the ultrasonic sensor to our canvas. So here's the hardware, distance ultrasonic sensor. Basically the way we're going to be able to read this data is through using a text interface object that will give us its readings from the dashboard. So Next thing we need to do is just search for text. Make sure it's not input text, it's actually just text. And then so this interface object, we're just going to drag out and then drag a line from the distance port on the ultrasonic sensor object to the text interface object. And that's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and just give this a label to see it in the dashboard. We're just going to label it distance. I'll go ahead and name the object as well. All right, and then click Save Properties. And then for the hardware object, we're going to name this Ultrasonic, and this will help with the mapping process next. So I'm going to click Save Properties, and now this is going to be my app. So I'm going to go to Save App, and then Return to My Apps. And then now I'm going to click the Play button for this app here. And then I'm going to map that ultrasonic hardware object to the ultrasonic builder base that we uploaded the ultrasonic firmware file. So go ahead and select that one, hit a green check mark, click Done, and then now you can click Save and Run. Now our application is running. To read this data, we're just going to click Dashboard, and then we're going to go to the ultrasonic app. And now you can see it's giving us a distance here. So here's the builder base. Now, when I don't have my hand in front of it, it's giving us a reading of 40 centimeters. And then I put my hand in front of it, it's giving us 6 centimeters. See, just like that. Now, I can also change the units of measurements. Instead of having it in centimeters, we can change it to inches. So to do that, you want to go back to your Q server, go to Settings, go to General Settings, and then scroll down to where it says Measurement. Here it says Metric. I'm going to change this to Imperial. And then when I go back to the dashboard, there you go, you can see it's giving us readings in inches. So I put my hand in front, gives us in inches, and back. So that's pretty much the simplest way to set up the ultrasonic sensor on the quantum system. However, you can have it where instead of just reading the data, it can do something based on it. You can have it where if it's within or exceeds a certain distance, it can send out a trigger to do some other action. And I'll just show you here back on our Q server what you could technically do with it. So just go ahead and go back to your apps. I'm going to stop this app. And I'm going to go to Edit. All right, so we're back in our app. I'm going to move this text interface object off to the side here, but we'll keep it. And then now what I want to add is a number compare object. This one right here. And then I'm going to drag a line from the distance port on the ultrasonic sensor to the number 1 port on the number compare code object. And then I'm going to activate the trigger. So whatever value is coming in to this object from the sensor is going to trigger the entire system. So go ahead and turn that on, click Save Properties. And then now for the number 2 port, I want to enter my own value that will work for this demo. Basically, what I want it to do is if there is an object within or exceeds a certain distance, it will send a trigger accordingly, or if it's equal to as well. So for this number 2 port, I'm going to set the value for 10 inches and then click Save Properties. And now I'm going to drag out 3 debug interface objects to demonstrate how this works. But you can use anything else. I mean, it's just used to trigger a certain device or another action, however you create your project. I usually like to do this where it sends you a text if something's within or exceeds a certain set distance using the Twilio service, which is pretty cool. But I'm excited to see what you guys can do with this. So now we're just going to drag from the greater port to the import of this debug object, and then the less port to this one, and then the equal to this one. And now we're just going to give these interface objects a label so we can identify them in the dashboard. So for this one, I'm just going to name greater and then click Save Properties. This one, I'll name less. Click Save Properties. And then this one will be equal. And then click Save Properties. So now basically what's happening in this application is this ultrasonic sensor is sending data to the Q server, and then based on that, it's comparing that value it's receiving in this object to the 10 inches value that I sent here. And so if this number 1 is greater than 10 inches, it will trigger this port and send out a signal. If it's less than 10 inches, it's going to send out a signal on this less port. And then if it's equal to 10 inches, then we'll send it out of this port here. But this is the app, so I'm going to save. And now I'm going to return to my apps. I'm going to run my app. Mapping's still good. And click save and run. Now I'm going to go over to the dashboard. Click the Ultrasonic app. So you can see now that text interface object is now receiving the data and is showing us that there's an object 16 inches in front of the sensor. And then because of that number compare, you can see that since it's greater than 10, which was the value you set, it's sending a signal out the greater port, and you can see on the debug, it's saying on. Now, if I put my hand in front of it, it's less than 10 inches. You can see that the less port is sending out a signal, and the debug value is on for that one. Now, if I can get it to equal to 10 inches, I might be able to get this to turn on, but it's a little bit tricky. Let's see here. Well, all right, maybe not. So I tried. But anyways, you get the concept, and that's just one other way you can use this ultrasonic sensor to do something in a project. So that's pretty much how you connect and use the HC-SR04 ultrasonic distance sensor with the quantum system. Make sure you check out those links in the video description below for more information about the sensor and some of the projects that we've used this sensor with. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.